And welcome back, rugby fans. Of course, this is the Run, Pass, or Kick interviews with your team from the Rugby Rant podcast show. A quick reminder for our fans tuning in. My name is Ty Braga, your host for today's activities, alongside Rob, the Hammer Hammerschmidt. And in the background, producing the show is Scott, the big guy Ferrara. But more importantly, the man of the hour with us here to be put to the test for our Run, Pass, or Kick interview is Charlie Hewitt, RUNY's own. Charlie, welcome to the show.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to be able to have you on. And by the way, for those of you who don't yet know, we didn't actually talk about this beforehand as a team, but it's a great chance for me to be able to let you know that, Charlie, you have the privilege and the honor of being the last person that we're going to interview this year. So what that means is we've saved the best for last, right?
Exactly.
I like your modesty, like absolutely, right? So the reason being, for those of you who don't know, we traditionally choose to be able to take a break when we see the right opportunity to be able to prepare for the season ahead. We're going to be doing that. But before we kind of share more details about that, we'll also be following or sharing all the news online through our social media account. And you can follow us under the handle at Rugby Rant Pod for more details about what you can expect in the upcoming season from your Rugby Rant podcast team, with new sponsorships, a new style, and a new format could be introduced as well. And so Charlie might be, who knows, the last Run, Pass, or Kick interview of this nature in this manner. So no pressure, Charlie. Don't disappoint our fans. All one of them will be very disappointed. So with that all being said, it's a great opportunity to be able to reintroduce my co-host, Rob Hammerschmidt, to let you know how it works.
Thank you very much, Ty. And again, welcome, Charlie. It's great to have you on. We know that a lot of the RUNY boys avoid Scott, the big guy Ferrara, all the time. So the fact that we got one of you guys on once in a while is always a good show, and we appreciate that. But for those who are uninitiated or not familiar with how the Run, Pass, or Kick interview style works, it works a little like this. Basically, we're going to pose a whole lot of questions to Charlie, and we're going to prompt them all with run, pass, or kick. And just like any good rugby player, he's got to have his options about him. Of course, he's a forward and a lock forward at that. I don't know how much kicking or passing he'll do. Most of those guys like to run it straight up the pitch. But nevertheless, we'll always give Charlie those three options. So if he chooses to run with a question, and he'll let us know what he's going to do, that means he's going to answer the question straight up, which is always good because you guys get more information, a little insight on our guest. In this case, it's Charlie. Or he could be a little cheeky, as they say in the UK, and pass the question, which is to say that it's a little tough one to handle. Perhaps Butch might get a little angry at him, when you know how Butch can get angry, especially when he doesn't get his ice cream the one time a year that he has it. And he might pass it, or he can have a little fun with us, put us on the back foot, of course, and he can kick the question to us. And unless Charlie indicates who he wants to kick to, we'll assume it's whoever asked the question. Charlie, are you ready for the Run, Pass, or Kick challenge, my friend?
I think so. Let's give it a go.
I love your confidence. All right. Well, I'll throw a softball for you here. That's an easy one for folks at home, perhaps our foreign viewers. So run, pass, or kick. Who did you room with during the USA Selects tour of the Southern Hemisphere? And as a follow-up, was your roommate a better companion than Huxley, your golden doodle?
Okay, so I had three roommates. I had short stints with Ben Mitchell and I forgot to say I'll run with this more than happily. Okay. Ben Mitchell and George Sharp were two short stints. And then most of my time was spent with Cale Hodgson, who was recently drafted to Free Jacks. Good guy, real good guy. Snores a lot less than George Sharp or Ben Mitchell does. Let me take full control of the TV choice, so more than happy in that. But I mean, in terms of him compared to a 90-pound golden doodle, I'm going to take Huxley every time, and that's also because my partner's probably going to watch this as well, and I'm going to have to save the dog.
Hey, after we log off, I'm gonna have to go to a whole lot of dirt on Sharpie there because he's going down to NOLA. You know, for those that don't know, NOLA's my team, so I'll get some dirt on Sharpie. So when we have him on, I can rib him a few times or get some good information.
Rob loves being able to social media stalk all of our guests. He does his research, definitely does. And on that note, Rob is also the one who so brilliantly crafts all these questions. So if you feel at any point you need to kick something, kick it to Rob. Although if you do to me, it usually ends up in some sort of comical result because I'm totally unprepared. Sure. So let's move on to the next one. And run, pass, or kick. You know the rules now. And you played with the, I believe, the Exeter Chiefs Academy during your formative years as a rugby player. What kind of groundwork was established at the time that paved the way for your current success?
I can run with this. Yeah, sure. They have a very good structure down there where you would go to a certain school that was linked with the academy, etc. And our head coach would be one of the Exeter Chief coaches, and we'd be with them daily. It was just drummed into us a lot, basic fundamentals more than anything. Especially down that way, they like the weather's not great, so ball carrying, tackling, making sure you hit your rucks and your lineouts was all sort of drummed into us at a young age. And you can sort of see that with how Exeter play. Although there's some flashy areas like Simo and breaking through and stuff like that, but you see they put in a lot of hard groundwork to make those areas done. So I feel like I've had success from basically the fundamentals that they taught me from a young age.
And awesome. How young is that, out of curiosity?
I would say I started training with the academy at about 14. Mm-hmm. That would be sort of once a week we'd head up there. You'd still play with your club as a kid, but then get to sort of 15, 16, it's a bit more regular. And then your last 2 years of high school, I obviously moved school in order to sort of be more connected to them. So I would be training in school probably 4 days a week and then training up there maybe 2 days a week.
Now, when they made the final last year in the Prem, did you go ahead and hit them up for some tickets?
No, I think I can't remember where we were. I think we were in NOLA, and was it NOLA or Atlanta? I think we were playing Toronto away, and I think I was the only guy in the room supporting Exeter because everyone else said they play boring rugby and wanted to watch Harlequins and stuff. But no, I've still got a few friends that play there, and yeah, I mean, if I was in the country, I definitely would hit up a few of them for tickets, but not this time around. My dad was asking for some though.
Well, I'm sorry that you had to visit Atlanta. Anyway, sorry, I'm just kidding. All those fans, and Chance, don't come beat me up. Anyway, in a recent interview, again, Ty mentioned I'm a stalker on social media, so I dug up an interview, and you credited your dad with suggesting that you have a go in America with your rugby. Run, pass, or kick, how difficult of a decision was it to move to the United States to play rugby?
I'll kick it back. I'll see what you got to say about it. What do you reckon?
Well, here's what I think. I know you're an avid dog lover, and I think what happened is on social media, somebody flashed a picture of a needy golden doodle that needed to be adopted, and you knew there was going to be too difficult a time getting the dog into the UK. So it was just easier to go ahead and get a visa to the United States, come to the United States and rescue a dog. And it just so happened it worked out with your rugby.
I mean, you're not far off. I mean, personally, I wouldn't have chosen such a big, hairy dog, but you're not far off. Let's just say that. But no, it was a good opportunity for me. It was that, or I was close to signing for a championship team at the time, and my dad was just straight up. He just said, you could be playing Doncaster away on a rainy Saturday and think, geez, I could be playing San Diego away somewhere nice and hot. And
Doncaster is not exactly the tropical appeal of San Diego white sandy beaches.
Yeah, that was his final sentence on it, and he was like, "You're never going to be in America and think, oh God, I wish I was in Rotherham right now."
Hey, listen, he's never spent a day in New Orleans in like July, right? I mean,
swampy heat.
August. He's been there in August.
Really? And he still recommended that you head down to Houston.
He was pretty intoxicated, so I think he would have recommended anything at the time.
In NOLA? Get the hell out of here. Nobody gets inebriated in NOLA.
Just embracing the spirit of it all. And all the spirits.
Yes.
Most of them.
Yeah, out of curiosity though, what was that championship team at the time? Was it Doncaster, or you were just saying that you're, what is the Doncaster Knights, if I'm remembering, is one of the sides there?
Yeah, no, it wasn't Doncaster. The side I sort of had my sort of final off from was Jersey, the Channel Island team. So they're a solid team and they get players back up into the Premiership. But I've sort of spent a fair bit of time playing in the Championship with London Scottish, and it's hard. It's a tough schedule, and it's basically the Prem without all the frills attached. Everything's just got that edge taken off it. And I mean, I would have been happy going there, but I thought I went for a risk for once, and I feel like it paid off.
I like the big guy in the background saying you traded Jersey for New Jersey.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So let's continue forward and using the same formula as before: run, pass, or kick. Recently, you have become an American Eagle eligible, should I say? How did you arrive at the decision to commit to the USA eligibility course?
I can run with this. Initially, I sort of never really crossed my mind. When I first moved over here, I moved over here for a new experience. It got to the end of the season. I had to do a few summer camps for Houston at the time, and I just basically hung around. I only went home for a month or so, and then someone else said if you carry on doing this, you'll be US eligible. And then following season, I was injured. And so I couldn't really go home so I could carry on my rehab. And then by that point, it was already 2 years in. And I was like, well, it's one more year. And
I'm still playing rugby, so why not?
Yeah, I'm still playing rugby. I love living over here. I see it as a home. And I don't think Eddie Jones was going to ring me anytime soon. So I figured this would be the best route to international rugby. And like I said, I find I spend a majority of my time in America now, and it's my home away from home, should you say.
Well, you're adopted nation, and I, in many ways, echo the same themes, is that you make your home where you are, and when it feels good, it just feels right.
Exactly. Completely agree.
So I got to ask, given that you have a foot in two places and you're straddling, as they say, the pond, run, pass, or kick, this past July 4th, the Eagles played England and Twickenham. Tell the truth. Who did you root for?
I'll kick it the tie.
There we go.
So a man that has also 1 foot here and 1 foot abroad, you're always going to have a piece of you that's like home is where the heart is, they say. And yes, you're adopted nation, but it's difficult. You want to be able to see a good match. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if it was South Africa that was competing against the US, I would hope that it would just be a competitive match and rugby would be the winner. That's what I would vote for.
Yeah, I'm pretty close. I would say I was probably supporting individuals more than I was supporting either team.
Sure, that's fair. That's a better answer. You should have answered.
No, I don't want to keep running with too many. I get tired.
Spoken like a true forward.
First time I've heard that. That's awesome. That's funny. Well, of course, RUNY had 5 guys in the Eagle pool. I think they probably had 3 or 4 that were actually starting on the day. I'm sure I'll get corrected by the big guy in the background here. But of course, you had to support your RUNY guys that are also U.S. Eagles. Guys like Butch, and again, he might eat you when you come back. When he comes back, if you root against him.
Well, I've got a kind of an improv question here. So last week, and it's still continuing this debate, we spoke about on the Rugby Rant the new proposed eligibility law, and actually, we just wanted to be able to ask about your opinion because it's somebody who's kind of gone down this road. And if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about as a fan who's now tuning in, World Rugby is about to be able to decide on a new proposal that could mean players that have an origin going back one generation or even two generations, in other words, mother and a father or potentially grandparents in another nation, could be eligible to play for that nation regardless of where they were born. So a lot of great examples have been given about the Pacific Island nations who have players in New Zealand, Australia, but have roots in Tonga, Fiji, and Samoa. So the new law that's proposed would mean that if you can declare for another nation other than the one that you hold a passport for, but you would have to then be eligible, or you wouldn't be eligible for the other nation for, I think it's 3 years. Is it right, Rob?
Correct.
So did you hear about that proposal? And if so, how does that, you think, going to change rugby?
Yeah, I can run with that. I mean, I think it's like, I've got a prime example of a friend. Like, do you know Matthias Freya? Played at Houston, fullback. Yeah, yep. So Matthias was born here in America. He was born in Memphis. I think back in 2017, he played one leg of the 7 circuit for Argentina.
Okay.
And so
yeah.
A case with him is he's no longer involved in that. He's sort of built a bit of a life for himself over here in America. He's a passport holder, but he's down because he's an international player. Because of that one circuit, he's now struggling to find a team over here because a lot of international pools are like quotas already full at different teams. So I think it's great. I think it's great because you never know how long your international career is going to last, even compared to your club career. Like, it's always going to be shorter. And so if you've got the opportunity to play for would be a home nation, make someone else in your family proud, or if it works for you that it's better, like you've now found a life for yourself somewhere else, but you're more eligible now to play for that country. Like people who play for the All Blacks, they've gone to London, whatever, they've played somewhere in England, somewhere in Europe, but they still want to play international rugby, but they found a new life elsewhere.
Right.
I don't feel it's right to take that away from them in the case of because they've had maybe 1 or 2 caps. Like, what's the issue? I think international rugby should be the best players available.
Right. And 3 years, I mean, look, in professional rugby at that level, at the highest level of international tests, you're lucky if you get to 10 years. So 3 years for most people is a long time to be excluded from professional rugby service for any nation. So it's really quite a large penalty for maybe one game that you had or one circuit that you had that you might never revisit, So exactly. I agree. I think Rob and I kind of, we had a similar opinion. So it was great to be able to hear somebody's opinion who not only knows people close to you that's going through the same thing, but now that you have become eligible or becoming eligible, right, in another nation other than your home nation, it's more relevant to you and you see it from both angles, which is great. So thanks for sharing that. That was not a scripted question.
Yeah, no worries. It's a good one there.
So let's move forward and start to talk a little bit more about international rugby, but also the linchpin here, international rugby and the boys in orange and navy blue. Of course, we're talking about some of your teammates on RUNY. Run, pass, or kick, how helpful has it been to play next to 2 current USA Eagle locks like Nick Savetta and Nate Brakely, in the 4 and 5 position?
I'll kick it back to you.
Well,
locks don't usually kick this much, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm 10 struck in second row's body.
He's looking to bring the John Eels thing back. I get it.
Yeah, John Eels, he was a good kicker at 5.
I got a sweet right foot.
I think we see a social media challenge coming. Huh?
Oh yeah. Well, first maybe we'll make Scott Scott the big guy for our ratio in a 40 time and see what happens. All right. Of course, you have to put some cheeseburgers at the end of his. I'm mine. Oh, yours too. Okay. All right. We can arrange that. So I guess I'd say you have obviously you obviously have a wealth and depth of experience coming from England. I think the thing that's helpful is just getting insights into the USA structure and to get some insights in how to work a little bit more seamlessly when the opportunity has come about with the USA Selects team. So I think that's been really helpful, and probably navigating a little bit more, navigating New York. Like Civetta's a local boy. So when you came up to New York, I'm sure he was more than willing to show you around and show you where to get the best pie, and show you how to eat a proper New York slice. Fold that sucker in half, and if you're lucky like the big guy, you can eat it in 2 bites. Nevertheless, I think that's probably the advantage, is get more of the lay of the land, not necessarily insights into the position per se, but more about the structure and how it's organized, and the cultural component surrounding the USA system.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate. Nick doesn't really have opinion. Everything he says is fact, and it's tough to argue with sometimes.
Like any other New Yorker, right?
Yeah, exactly. His opinion is fact. That's the end of story with Nick. But no,
no debate whatsoever.
Yeah,
just he went and play. His plan was to play for Old Blue. He's a pretty smart guy. Does he don his professor glasses and a pipe and start waxing poetic about the theories and postulations and things like that?
Yeah, he's very much how would you say, like an armchair knowledge guy. You know what I mean? Like he, if you know something about something, he knows a little bit more about it, and usually the correct fact about it.
Oh, it's always correct,
both,
right?
Yeah, they've both been great. They're both really good guys. And yeah, it's very much that whole thing of what the coaches at USA are usually looking for, and what sort of second rows they do want. And what sort of boxes you should be trying to tick in order to move into that sort of national group.
Yeah, and that's really helpful when you get that sort of guidance and mentorship, because it comes from everybody. It's not only from the coaches that you get the guidance. It's your peers too, guys who have been there and done it. And that's kind of the culture of rugby, is one generation aims to help the next. It's about the jersey, not the person. So yeah, I like that kind of culture. It's seen at different levels of the game. And talking about different levels of the game for a moment, I have the opportunity to dive into the next question, and somebody who's been one of those significant contributors of the coaching side, Mike Tolkien. So with that in mind, Run, Pass, or Kick coach Mike Tolkien posted several takeaways from the recent America's Rugby Challenge. And I will quote, "We noticed an uneven match fitness and competition readiness among the squad, primarily because most players are in different stages of their state of play here. The pandemic created opportunities for some collegiate and club programs to compete, while others were forced into standstill for a longer period of time." Here lies the question, my friend. Does this comment suggest that the US needs a more common rugby calendar?
Yeah, I'll kick this back to you, but I wouldn't mind commenting on it afterwards.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, this is not like, by the way, everything I say is not fact. It's all fiction. So yes, I mean, obviously we would love to be able to have more unity and more of a cohesive style and plan and strategy. Rugby union is so disconnected as sport because of how large a geographical space it needs to cover. I mean, think about how many unions there are, how many partners to the different unions, how many people there are to be able to organize, what unique challenges each organization has. Would we love to be able to work on the same calendar? Absolutely. Are there strengths and merits behind it? For sure. Will it happen? I don't know. What do you think?
I agree. I think like a lot of it needs to be centralized. Like it needs to be run through USA Rugby as opposed to other organizations. But at the same time, it's tough because you got guys who play MLR, but then also still play D1. So
right.
You like marrying those two things up. Like some guys may not have got much game time during the MLR season, and then they want to go and play some D1 to get some more rugby in. So I feel like the flow is there with, especially in the Northeast, that sort of flow is kind of there in terms of like club rugby with professional rugby, but then it's also merging in the case of like the colleges and how many games they actually end up playing. So I heard like some teams play a lot more fixtures in the end than other colleges. So once that I feel could be married up with sort of MLR and D1, then after that I think it would be a lot easier to select a team for, say, like first selects tour, because you have an idea of how many games someone's got under their belt and stuff like that. You don't have to be
it's comparable all of a sudden.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that definitely is one of the challenges now. Rob, did you have anything you wanted to jump in and add? I'm sure.
Yeah, it's funny and interesting. I mean, for somebody coming from the UK, you don't have the familiarity with the college system in the United States as perhaps some guys that have gone through the college system coming from either the UK, Wales or Oz or South Africa. So it's kind of interesting that you mentioned the college, and it speaks to, I think, how well-rounded your knowledge of USA Rugby has become in the 3 or 4 short years that you've been in the United States playing the game. But it's in the college game, there's too many cooks in the kitchen, right? There's too many organizations trying to, control the rugby calendar, and
everyone has the best way of doing it, right?
Yeah. And it does need to be uniform, because there are some colleges in which the national finals are happening here this fall. And then there's, of course, D1A is going to happen in the spring. I know some of the top teams, they don't really play a lot of high level rugby until late fall. And then they get into the real swing of things in the spring. So it certainly, speaks to the challenges of the calendar under the current system. So insightful and intuitive, my friend. I like to see it. We're going to take sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good.
We're going to take a moment, folks, to go ahead and thank one of our sponsors who's been awesome, been with us the whole season, and that would be Tight Head Brewing Company. It is Chicago's premier location to watch rugby and enjoy quality ales and lagers for all seasons. Located in Mundelein, Illinois, in the heart of Lake County, Bruce Durr and his Tight Head staff will ensure you are kept well hydrated so you don't miss a single scrum. Tight Head's tap room is like the familiar rugby clubhouse in which friends and teammates can meet, socialize, and enjoy the wide variety of brews on tap. And if you're in Chicago, please, by all means, check out Tight Head Brewing. Whether you go and buy some beer here at Binny's, which is a place you can go and buy, or you go straight up to Mundelein, Illinois, and say hi to Bruce and his staff. Check out Bruce and Tight Head, because they support rugby in the Chicago area. I ran into Bruce just 2 weeks ago at the Griffins-Lions game. I ran into Bruce again last weekend at the Midwest Championships at my home pitch, the Chicago Blaze in Lamont, Illinois. Bruce is a huge supporter of rugby, and I know that he would love to have rugby supporters support what he does. So, hey, Chicago, when you want rugby, Tight Head Brewing Company will satisfy your thirst. Tight Head, it's worth more than a try. All right, Ty, you want to go ahead and introduce the quick tap while I pull up some of our questions there?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the quick tap, we're going to mix up a few things here, change the pace, change the rhythm, and the quick tap is very simple. It's a this or that option. You're going to go with the first thing that pops into your head, Charlie. And if you want to take an opportunity after your response to elaborate a little further, you're welcome to do so. But let's be clear, there is no run, pass, or kick on any of these options, so stop kicking. But, it's going to be good fun. We're going to mix it up, and Rob is going to give you, I believe he's got 6 locked and loaded over here. And then after that, I'll come back in with the next run, pass, or kick question.
Charlie, this is the first time I've ever asked a guest to do this. I have forged a theme with these questions. Okay, there's a theme, and I'm interested to see if you pick up on that theme at the time we're done, okay? So,
there's an additional bonus point in there for you.
Under pressure.
That's right. Yeah, I brought it tonight. I was full of it. All right. Obviously you have a wonderful golden doodle, Huxley. I had a golden doodle, Ben, who hasn't been with us for a couple of years, and I've got a little Woodle, a much smaller version. They all have a unique flavor and flair. So I got to know what's a better dog for a head of state, the Welsh Corgi or a German Shepherd? Because we know the Queen has the Welsh Corgi. We know that President Biden has the German Shepherd.
I'm a big dog guy, so I go German Shepherd.
German Shepherd. All right. You're doing good so far. All right. Better pub food. This is a challenge too. Better pub food, fish and chips or Italian beef?
Fish and chips any day.
Okay. All right. Still got 1 foot over in the pond. All right. All right. Better SUV, Range Rover or Cadillac Escalade?
Range Rover. I don't like either of them, but I'd go Range Rover.
Yeah, but you got to pick one.
Yeah, Range Rover, Range Rover.
Okay. All right. Better big city, New York or London?
New York.
I think he's starting to notice the theme here.
Yeah, New York.
New York. Okay. All right. 2 more left here. Better national anthem, God Save the Queen or the Star Spangled Banner?
Star Spangled Banner.
Okay.
Our anthem sucks back in England.
It's not interesting whatsoever.
No, not in the slightest.
Okay. Last one. Better holiday, Boxing Day or Thanksgiving Day?
I'll go Thanksgiving.
Good man. All right.
It's like it's got that time away from Christmas where like it's a whole different entity in itself. So like there's a whole new batch of food, whereas Boxing Day is just leftovers from Christmas.
Yeah, but that's a part of the charm, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean you
No.
get that. I'll get Thanksgiving, then I'll get leftover Thanksgiving, then I'll get Christmas, and then I'll get leftovers here. So it works.
Yeah.
Food
And
about
Ty, do you
food.
want me to bring the big guy back on screen to talk about food? Because
Let me tell you. So when I first came to the US and I was introduced to this whole Thanksgiving, festivities and the whole theme and everything behind it, and my wife
thing in the world,
decided,
didn't you?
what's that?
You thought it was the greatest thing in the world, didn't you?
No, it is. It is. I definitely concur. But this is how it was described to me. It's like, well, it's a lot of food. You watch some football, you take a nap, you eat more food, and maybe you watch some more sports. I'm like, babe, I've been training for this day my whole life.
My dad has Thanksgiving every Saturday.
yeah, exactly. So yes, I love the spirit of it and the spirit of those questions too. Well done, Rob. I liked it a lot.
Mm-hmm. All right. Did you figure out the theme, Charlie?
I think it was something to do with England versus the USA, but
Yeah, we want to know.
And I
if
think
you've
your
been
score was
converted.
tied up at 3-3 on those. So
Yeah.
or was it 4-2
planned.
in favor of the US? So apparently they'll let you stay.
Yes, that's right.
good.
So let's turn our attention back to the regular format of run, pass, or kick. Now that we certainly changed and mixed things up there, that was a good style there, Rob. We're gonna have to remember that for next time. So let's dive into a little changing the themes and the subjects here a little bit as we enter the second half. Great job in the first half, by the way. So run, pass, or kick. You are snowed in for the weekend. Can't get out. Nothing's going on. Okay. Without power, which RUNY teammate would you most prefer to be locked down with?
I'll run with this. I'd have to say my old mate Dan Hollinshead Horse. Me and him got on really well. I know he can cook well. And yeah, I think we'll get on just fine. Like he was begging me to be my roommate this coming season, but then he decided to go to France. So
how rude!
Yeah, kind of just left me in the dark on that
Just
one.
led you on and then disappeared.
Yeah, for weeks and weeks he was like, "I want to room with you. I want to room with you next
Just
year."
take this to the next level.
Yeah, and he goes, "Oh, I'm in northern France. Sorry."
And your tummy has been pissed off ever since, hasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And you still say him. You know what? You are loyal.
Yeah. Still a friend.
I like it.
That's awesome. Okay, that's a sound answer, and I like I like the justification for it too. All driven by food. I think we see yet another theme developing here. All right, so we've talked a little bit about the fact that in previous seasons you played for the Houston SaberCats, and what's interesting, for as young as you are, you've been around since the MLR's inception. MLR commentator Dan Power once called the SaberCats the perpetual underperformers of the MLR. It seems as of late they are on a mission to change this perception. with some high-profile coach and player signings. Run, pass, or kick? Would you agree with this comment from Dan Power? And what do you make of the recent changes?
Yeah, I can run with this. I think it was due. I don't think Houston, like especially towards the end of the second season when they bolstered the squad a bit, I think there was a strong squad there. In my opinion, it may not have been going in the right direction. Like you saw, they got I think they won 4 out of 5 of the last games that season. So I think they had the talent there. I just don't think there was necessarily like the seriously experienced figurehead to sort of spearhead things. So like for instance, like at RUNY, you've obviously got Andy Ellis. Like there's that player who players want to be at their standards, so everyone raises their game. Whereas I think Houston, there wasn't really that soul or couple of soul figures that were like had been there, done that as much as other experienced players on other squads. But yeah, I think this is the biggest change they've ever done. Like from what I'm hearing, the squad turnover is huge as well. So it's, by the sounds of it, it's a clean slate, and so it's a case of not really sink or swim, but it's just a case for the organization, like the behind the scenes, to be like, okay, well, what was the real issue? Was it the coaching staff and the players, or was it the organization as a whole? So I think this will make things a lot clearer this season.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and with the addition of Heineken Meyer, who's former Springbok rugby coach, with that, you started, and you talk about the leadership, and you started at the top, and he's gotten that first new position of director of rugby the first time. So there's a step away from the head coach having to wear many, many different hats, which is very common in a young league. But he's the director of rugby, and there's a separate head coach. So they've got more clearly identified roles of responsibility that could make a difference too. And with that, more time to think about the strategy and execute the strategy, because there's more hands on deck and more experience to guide it in the right way.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I think there was a lot of people spinning a lot of different plates, especially in the early years, and like you see it in other teams now as well. So when you get off the ground, there's the jobs you didn't realize need doing, and suddenly people are taking on 2 or 3 different roles at an organization. But yeah, it's like I don't want them to do too well, but I think it's a case of they're probably going in the right direction. It's probably what the team needed. It's probably some guys might disagree with it, but it's as a whole from the outside and from what I hear from the inside occasionally, like it's what had to happen really, because they have been a sort of sleeping team the last few years.
Yeah, and you're going to get reconnected with one of your mates down there in Houston that had a lot of success, right? Sam Windsor.
I didn't get told anything. Is there a rumor that he's going to New York? That's way above my pay grade.
I just rock up and put the gear on and just do my thing.
I just remember to bring my boots each day.
I like it.
Sam's a good friend of mine, but it'd be interesting to see where he ends up.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned about the coaching staff, and this kind of tees up my next question here, and we're going to turn our focus back onto RUNY. So run, pass, or kick. Many folks, including the big guy, Scott Ferrara, of course, who's the eternal RUNY fan, have a lot of love for Greg McWilliams. But RUNY quickly had to transition from Greg to Marty Veal. What was that process like?
I'll run with this. It was quick. Greg came in one day and explained to us that he would no longer be at the team. It was an instance where our CEO came in and said, okay, this is happening. We need to get on with it. Marty's going to take over for now, and we'll see how it goes. And obviously he stayed on for the rest of the season. But yeah, it was quite strange because it was during pre-season, and obviously we had a lot of new players. So I wouldn't say it was as big of an issue. Like, he's a big loss, but it wasn't a case of there were loads of players in our group who were so used to him, because there wasn't. There was
right. It was quite a large changeover of new players.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get you.
And I mean, I'd only known him for possibly a month from the previous COVID season, so it wasn't as probably dramatic as a lot of people thought it was.
That's a great.
I think it's just that
great
it came
point.
suddenly, and for personal reasons, we should add that he left the position.
Right. But that's a great point. I mean, we at the Rugby Rant were talking rugby and MLR, even in that interim, COVID process, right? When nobody was playing, we were still talking about the league. We were still talking about the possibilities. And what we've forgotten, in a sense, is that, you guys really didn't have an opportunity to get to know Greg all that much during that 2020 season. So, given that fact, it was kind of an interesting perspective. You really didn't get a lot of time with him to begin with. So,
yeah, I mean, I was traded during that COVID season, so I only turned up, I think, for round 3. So
right, and there was only 5 rounds. So
yeah, exactly. So I wasn't in New York an awful long time. Yeah.
Fair enough. We appreciate that.
So speaking of the MLR, just as a whole, obviously Commissioner Killebrews talked about expansion. He's identified some potential cities where they've had some interest in terms of bringing about new MLR teams into the fold. So run, pass, or kick, as the league continues to expand, which city would you like to see get a team next?
I'll run with this. I mean, anywhere on the coast, really, or by a nice lake or something. So I would say somewhere that's probably a good choice. I know everyone's saying about the rugby hubs, but if I was choosing solely on location, it would probably be somewhere in Florida or North Carolina or somewhere along the beach in the East Coast. I mean, the West Coast has got some teams already, but
is this just because you like the coast?
Yeah, pretty much.
Just purely motivated by personal reasons.
and I also liked Denver, so I was kind of gutted when the Raptors dropped out. So I wouldn't mind.
You and me both, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind them bringing the team back in, if I'm honest.
Well, I mean, Chicago has some tremendous beaches along Lake Michigan, so you ought to try those out. Kind of hoping something happens here soon.
Yeah,
right. The Midwest, most people are just crying out for a team anywhere in the Midwest.
Right.
And there's definitely a lot of candidates for good host cities, but it's a bit of a rugby desert right now when it comes to professional rugby in the Midwest. So a lot of people might disagree with your attempt to get another one on the coast.
No, I understand, and I do know, like, from players that play club rugby in that area, like there's a good rugby hub there, and I would assume that area would be one of the next 1 or 2 teams to get a team in the MLR.
I can only hope. And dream.
But what he's saying is Charlie's not going to go there though, because there's no beach.
Yeah, I'll get it in my contract.
Not a bloody chance.
I came to America to see white sandy beaches.
Exactly.
But Huxley would love the winters here. Like, he's got to love playing.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's one place we need to get him, is up north, so that he can get in the snow.
Right, absolutely. All right, well, let's dive into the next question here. Run, pass, or kick. You know the format by now. You have been around the league since the beginning of its inception. Really, actually, we were talking about this off camera before, and many people won't really understand this, but you were, when you initially signed to come to the US, the Sabercats were then called the Houston Strikers. So that's even before its inception, or before its first game as the now known the Sabercats. But of course, you continued throughout the years and become a staple of the MLR community. And with that in mind, you have been around the league since its beginning. What has the league done well? And second half, what could be improved upon for season 5? Run, pass, or kick?
Oh, I'll kick that back.
Okay. I'll let Rob take one half of that, and I'll take the other half. Okay. So I'll take what they've done well.
Gilbert, next time we him on, if he decides to come on, it's going to curse me up and down.
Yeah. And, it's not like people don't know what we do on this show, Rob. So let's start with what they've done well. Naturally, it's just bring professional rugby to the US. providing a platform for players to play more rugby more often at a higher standard, which has in turn given the national teams more opportunity to spot new players because there's more ability to see players playing at a healthy standard of rugby and to play often. So it's improved fitness, it's improved the caliber of the game, it's improved coaching. It's kind of risen as a whole, allowed the measurement of success to be well beyond where we had set that same bar a few years before the MLR. So there's a lot of great growth. There's a lot of wonderful things they've done. But, we were talking about finding a more cohesive rugby calendar to kind of galvanize everybody at the same time. The MLR has managed to a certain degree to galvanize fans and to take that energy and that passion and steer it in one direction, which is professional domestic rugby in the US with Major League Rugby. And that has been one of the pivotal moments to be able to drive its success forward. That's my bit on what they did well.
So there are two things I've harped on. One of them is a more transparent pathway for teams to join the MLR, like a clearly established process by which new teams will join the league and when things will be made public and announced. The fact that teams have done all sorts of different ways makes it difficult for us fans to get behind and follow some of what's happening as new teams join the league. So, case in point, obviously Dallas had its struggles initially. Kanaloa had its struggles. Had there been a process that was well established and well mapped out, I think it would make that a lot more. It would take away some of the anticipation and wonder that fans have, especially fans that are in cities that are going to potentially join. Let's see. One of the other things, and I had it in the back of my mind, that one of the other things that could be improved upon. I forgot. So sorry. Time was droning on a little too long, and I forgot what I was going to say because I'm like a golden retriever.
Blame it on me. Let's put Charlie back in the hot seat here.
I get dinged on something, all of a sudden I get distracted, and that's it. I lose all concentration.
It's okay. Charlie, your thoughts?
I agree to most of that. I mean, I think a lot of it is like the American sort of sports markets seems to love like clarity, like in terms of player movement, teams joining, etc. Like you find that in all sports, and I find the more obvious you are with the market, then the more they're going to engage. Like you see, It really bugs me when I see like teams post saying such and such MLR team has done a trade with this team and we have acquired this player. And then, but the first thing you think is, well, what did the other team get? And if the other team doesn't post about it, you're just like, well, what's the
question mark?
Yeah. So, I mean, just like, that's just an example, but in general, the whole clarity, I think, would be better. I think what they've done well is like when they moved to the Rugby Network, I mean, especially with family back home and people abroad, it's just made the league so much more obvious around the world and easily accessible. So like, it's not a case of trying to get onto Facebook, depends what country you're in and stuff like that. Like, I think stuff like the Rugby Network is just going to help elevate the league in general. Like the more accessible it is, the more crowds you get.
The more eyeballs that tune in, the more people that are potential fans.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, we've kind of reinforced that at many different times on this show. But one of the greatest points is that they made it accessible because it's one place for it all. But most importantly, it's free. So, yeah, not behind a paywall, right?
So I'm going to pick up the next question I just mentioned a moment ago in my response, half of which I forgot, about the Dallas Jackals. There was much anticipated debut of the Dallas Jackals, only a month away. I think one of our good friends, Rick Collins, is literally wetting his pants right now in anticipation. He is like my dog when I come home. Anyway, run, pass, or kick. How well do you think the Dallas Jackals will do in their first season?
I can run with that. I mean, I think they'll surprise a lot of teams. I think last season when they were supposed to come in and then failed at the last minute, I think some teams were not expecting a lot from them. But you look at some of the signings they've made, like there's former Worcester guys there, like Chris Pennell and Ryan Bauer, with like first of all, they're just really nice guys, and second of all, they've just got an absolute wealth of experience. I saw they got some young, like exciting Australian players coming over and stuff. So I think it would be wrong to underestimate them more than anything. I saw their coach; they got a young coach as well, so I'm sure he's looking to play a sort of younger brand of rugby, not sort of the old school up the jumper, straight up the middle. So yeah, like I could keep coming around to my point. I think they will surprise a few people, and they're not a team you want to sort of underestimate, because I think in this league, like there or thereabouts, most teams can beat almost anyone on any given day.
Yeah, there was a lot of parity in the early part of last season that we saw, like, matches being really tightly fought, especially Utah. Utah won it like from behind, like how many matches? Like just kind of, developed a bit of an identity as like the comeback kids in rugby, at least here. But, it's really exciting to be able to see. And traditionally, the expansion teams have done well. Old Glory in their first season, even though it was a truncated season, did pretty well. They won their first, I think, 3 out of 5 matches. Then it was Free Jacks, who also did traditionally pretty well for a new team. So I think that's a good point. You can never underestimate the value that a new team can bring to the league, especially because it kind of mixes up some of the conference makeup of the teams and the point structures, because we're a little unbalanced next season. So.
What I think is interesting too is as the league grows and we see expansion teams come in and we draw from some of these player pools that, for the American rugby fan like myself, we're not as familiar with some of these players that come in. You're probably more familiar with some of those UK signings than most of us, but it's always interesting to see how well those guys get integrated and the level of rugby that they bring in. Like you mentioned, Chris Pennell. We, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Makilla Gorilla is going to be joining down there in Dallas. That's the nickname. So for McKill. So it's always good to see new guys come into the league from overseas and join the league and send a message to American rugby players about the level and standard that's going on in other places around the world.
Very, very true. So as we come closer towards the end of the time available here with Charlie Hewitt from RUNY, we want to be able to remind you, it's a bit of a tradition on the show here, Charlie, that before you head out and we're done with this interview, you're going to give a shout out to anybody you think is important enough to receive one, or maybe there's a special cause. You want to send a shout out to some ruggers out there and just say hi and draw awareness to their club. So we'll be doing that come near the end of this interview, and we've got only 2 more questions lined up. We'll make our way through those. But again, as a quick reminder to our fans who are tuning here into another Run, Pass or Kick interview, you can continue to enjoy our content online by finding us under the handle at Rugby Rant Pod, where each Monday we will be doing another great interview with another rugby insider for our Run, Pass or Kick interviews. Make sure that you follow us under the handle at Rugby Rant Pod, as we will be changing our schedule for the next few weeks. And you can stay closely linked to that to find out what the new show might look like and when those launch dates will be for what is probably better seen as season 3 of the Rugby Rant podcast show. And of course, you can continue to find us in the happy home of the Rugby Network, free access to all, where you can see our rugby debate episodes. This week, we are talking about the importance of the MLR 2022 schedule. So make sure that you follow us for that entertaining episode to learn more about the deeper insights of what it will look like for MLR 2022. So we turn our attention back to Charlie Hewitt here. Number 13 is the question. Actually, 14, I stand corrected. Look at me, counting. That's hard. So Run, Pass or Kick 2021 made for an interesting season with the Toronto Arrows playing in Atlanta and RUNY moving around a bit, especially in the early part of the season, trying to find their eventual home and eventually settling in New Jersey. So with all this in mind, which stadium did you most enjoy playing in for the whole of the season in 2021?
I'll run with this. What I enjoy playing in the most. Probably the stadium we finished in, the St. John's Soccer Stadium. We had some like really good results at that place. As a whole, we didn't play at the Coliseum this year. The Bold Stadium at Austin was great. It was not the best weather, and we lost, so I can't really say that was my favorite. But it was a great reasons. It was a great setup. Like I can't fault them there. But yeah, I'd say St. John's. I mean, I got some good memories there now, and like we had some good wins, and we had good bus journeys home afterwards. So that was probably where we sort of played some of our best rugby.
Great to hear.
Yeah, we don't quite know where RUNY will be playing its home games yet. I don't think that's been part of the announcement yet, but it could be St. John's, could be MCU. We don't know yet, but RUNY fans, stay tuned. I'm sure Scott Ferrara, the big guy, will let us know when he knows. I'm going to go with the last question here, Charlie. We're just mentioning the 2022 schedule that was just released. Run, pass, or kick. What excites you about RUNY's 2022 schedule?
I can actually no. I'll kick it back. I might have a comment at the end, but I'll kick it back.
Okay, you're going to kick it back to me.
Yeah. Let's go with that.
Okay, here I can tell you what doesn't excite you. It doesn't excite you. I don't think RUNY is playing a game in the final week, if I'm not mistaken. No,
we have a bye week 1.
No, never mind. You guys are playing one in the final week. Man, I think you guys have I know what it was. I think you guys have a stretch of 10 games in a row without a break. So that's what doesn't excite you.
Yeah, that's a rough one.
What does excite you is the big derby that will be going on with New England. 3 matches, and I want to say 2 of the 3 are actually in RUNY. I'd have to double check on that one, but having 3 matches against your rival, I know the big guy hates New England, and anybody that goes there is dead to him. So I would say that excites you, playing New England 3 times.
Yeah, actually, I can comment. You're sort of ringing a few bells in my head now. A week 1 bye does not excite me. That just takes away any sort of breaking the schedule up. So a week 1 bye is no good to me. The other thing is our next bye is after we play LA away. So if we do well, they might give us a few days off, and I might be able to spend a few days in Los Angeles. Who knows? Just go to the beach, chill out for a bit. But yeah, I know there'll be a good rivalry.
If not, you'll be on the bus back home the same night.
We could find your own way back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think there's. I think we don't play 2 teams in the West, and I think ours is Utah and Austin, like 2 notably strong teams. So I mean, that could work in our favor. It would be good to play them because they're 2 teams we lost to last year. But I mean,
it's a good point.
But you take it where you can get it, sort of thing. So I mean, if you can stay a bit fresher by not playing all the big boys up in Utah, then I'm not going to complain.
Right?
Especially in a 9-10 game stretch.
Well, Charlie, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join us here on the Rugby Rant podcast show for our familiar format of the Run, Pass, or Kick interviews. And you have stood the test, my friend. Thank you for joining us here. And as I said before, it's a bit of a tradition that we throw the mic back to our guest to send a shout out to anybody important, or perhaps you want to be able to draw attention to a special cause. The floor is yours.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll give a quick shout out to my hometown team. I grew up at Devonport Services. They're a local team in Plymouth. And another one would be a charity my girlfriend tends to work with at Christmas called Child Advocates, which basically they put out an anonymous Christmas list from kids, and they send it to different corporations, and she picks up one, and basically you fill out, you have a budget, and you buy the kid his Christmas wish list, and it gets sent to him. It's all anonymous, but it's a really good cause for especially a lot of kids who are less fortunate.
That's fantastic. I love the spirit of that. As we can get closer and closer to the holidays, what an awesome way to be able to give back. Also in a fun way though, too, right? Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Charlie. And
be sure to put a rugby ball in every one of those baskets too.
Yeah, good plan. Good plan.
I'll get Rick to send me a few down.
Get some Converse.
Bunch of kids around the world going, why is this ball not round? But yeah, it's all in good spirit, and you've been a wonderful guest here, and we thank you very much for joining us. It's been a blast. On behalf of myself, Rob, and Scott, we love these Run, Pass, or Kick interviews because we get to learn a little bit something different each and every time about those players who continue to be able to perform out there on the field for Major League Rugby and the teams represented therein. But more importantly, we give opportunity for fans to learn a little bit about the game and those players in the game that we love. And if you wanted to be able to continue to be able to learn more about Charlie and of course RUNY, make sure that you follow them online as well. We encourage all fans to be able to dive in and share whatever content they can and continue to be able to grow our community, both out there at the stadiums and also online, and spread the game we all love so much, because that's what we aim to do here on the Rugby Rant podcast show, is to grow rugby one fan at a time. And we do that with your help. And we also do that with the help with great sponsors like Tight Head Brewing. So make sure when you're out there in Mundelein, Illinois, visiting Chicagoland, that you visit them for a cold brew that is made by them for the last 10 years. They just celebrated 10 years. That's right, Rob, right?
Yep, that's correct. 10 years.
Excellent stuff. So once again, thank you very much for watching another great episode here with the team from the Rugby Rant podcast show. My name is Ty Braga, your host for today's activities, alongside Rob the Hammer Hammerschmidt. On behalf of Scott Ferrara and Charlie Hewitt, we thank you for watching, and we will see you at